Now, our next speaker has worked as a researcher across many sectors over the years, ranging from social research to the automotive, FMCG, and media research. She has a passion for data and the ways in which it can be used to empower businesses to make quick decisions. Here is data analyst Melissa Mcnally.
Good morning, everybody, and thank you so much for your time today. As mentioned, I head up research and analytics at Kagiso Media right now, so I work for 2 radio stations. I primarily do a lot of analytics work in radio right now, but I also do a lot of consumer-driven insights. And I'm just going to take you through a day in the life of, but I think it's really important to start from a contextual perspective in terms of where we are at this point in time with data and what kind of horizons we have as data analysts coming ahead of us, and contextually what we can do with these data points that we're going to enter into. So I'm clicking, but it's not moving. Now it is. So I was sitting with my kids just the other day, and obviously they're doing coding already, a lot of work around AI, machine learning, and I can't fathom what the future will actually hold for us going forward into the metaverse. So they predict that the metaverse is going to be worth trillions in the upcoming years. This allows us to actually have access to a number of data points as data analysts going forward. So what does this actually mean for us? We have cloud software that we're going to start mining. We have points where we can create products, etc. Over and above that, we can learn consumer behavior, create algorithms that speak to that. So a lot of my job actually means that I have to look at social media statistics. Over and above that, 59% of the world are actually on social media. That equates to 4.7 billion users, averaging on about 2 hours, 9 minutes a day in this actual world. If we look at the metaverse and we take this into consideration, how much data is actually available for us to mine, to create solutions for businesses, and to empower them. So they do say that data science or data scientists are being referred to as one of the sexiest professions in the 21st century. A lot of this is actually because of the fact that we make sense of very complicated data sets, unstructured data sets, and we put it into a sensical format. So what does it mean to be a data analyst for me on a day-to-day basis? Well, I become a storyteller. So I take unstructured data, create stories. A lot of the value in what we do actually comes from the fact that we create stories and we create insight in that moment. Over and above that, you have to be a bit of a mathematician, abstract from time to time, but a mathematician, and further to that, a coder. So we take the data, we create codes. From those codes, we create variables that make sense to us, and we run certain equations or algorithms or whatever it might be to make sense of it. And then we become business consultants. So a lot of our time is actually spent with people, actually finding problems. We sit with the businesses, we sit with individuals, and we investigate what the actual issues are. We define their objectives. So one of my data sets might look like this on a day-to-day basis, where we're coding in the back end. This is radio data, for example. This is collected by the BRC. I sit on the board at the BRC, for example. We have first-party data there. We collect that, and then we put it into this package called Talmar. Talmar then puts all the variables in there from a decision tree perspective, and then we code in the back end to create the variables that we want to actually see. From there, we're actually able to understand radio listening behavior and where we can grow audiences. We might look at growing other stations based on this. We might look at crossover between our different stations, duplication of audiences, and any opportunities. Further to this, we can look at regional nuances and understand what we could do from a regional perspective. Say you have a regional station, you might want to look at how you can actually work with your hyperlocalization of your data, but further look at a national kind of footprint. So we do a lot of work here in terms of understanding our business strategy and expanding our footprint. So that's one of the ways you can use it. Over and above that, you can look for areas of growth. So for example, you might see that there's an opportunity in Ekurhuleni for you to actually grow your listenership. So if anybody ever asks you, how do we actually measure radio? This is one of the ways. It's called RAMS. and it's called RAMS Amplified. This particular study has been up and running for about 18 months now, and it's how we actually trade. Another part of my job is visualizing data. Not everybody's a number person. You're going to come across this quite consistently in business, and what we do is we visualize our data. So often we have to pick the right charts that we actually want to represent the data. A lot of work goes into that. You might use Tableau, you might use Power BI, it might just be Excel or PowerPoint. But we do put a significant amount of effort into creating decks that are functional for the business to empower them to make quick decisions. So I'm just going to play a quick TikTok because a lot of what I said is problem solving, but over and above that, it's important for us to continuously explore unfamiliar concepts. I often have my clients or the business come to me about unfamiliar concepts to me. So a lot of my job, I thought I'd be coding, for example, but at the end of the day, I'm actually Googling 90% of the time. Literally my life. And it really is my life. A lot of unknown concepts, a lot of exploration, a lot of additional research and secondary desktop research to accompany my arguments that I create for businesses. But if you can't find me, I'm likely to be in a meeting. As I said, having meetings is a huge part of what we do. Stakeholder management, managing your customer or your internal clients as well. At least 60% of my work can actually be in meetings. And that's for problem solving, strategy, whatever it might be. Over and above that, we also use this time to prioritize our tasks. As you can imagine, a data analyst can cut across many segments within your business. I work on a lot of product development within our business. Over and above that, we also have panel work that we do, so we do primary research within my team. So a lot of what we do is collecting data, analyzing it, understanding it, unpacking it over and above that, to guide strategy within the business and grow audiences in my field. But you could go into any other business and apply this anywhere else, essentially. I can't imagine a business not having a data analytics team. So as I mentioned, problem solving is a massive part of this. But what is our general process if I look at my day-to-day task orientation? So I'm going to pull data from my various data sources. You can use SQL, SAS, SPSS, could even be in Excel. We have R for statistical analysis as well, and we will pull it into a consolidated space. Over and above that, and you might even have Python, for example. And then you pull the data in, we do quality checks. If it is a primary research study that I've conducted, we'll also do our quality checks to make sure that there aren't missing variables. We'll clean up our data set and analyze our data from there. So then we perform the exploratory analysis. In there, we start doing the statistical analysis, for example. We start discovering the problems, unpacking them accordingly, and looking to test our various hypotheses that we might have for the business. It could be anything, essentially, at this point, that forms part of our strategic objectives. Then, further to that, we test the data again to make sure we actually have integrity within our system. And we run it again to ensure the integrity of the data for each run that we have over time. And then we generate the reports. Like I said to you, a lot of time and effort goes into the visualization aspect because, one, a lot of people can't unpack the data necessarily by looking at it at first glance. We're very fortunate that we're able to do that. Other people then will disseminate that data throughout the organization for strategic objectives. So we need to make sure that it's usable. So it might be that you need to look at pie charts, or it might mean that it has to go into Tableau, for example, ClickView, whatever it might be. And essentially, at the end of all of this, as data analysts and scientists, we're continuously evolving and changing. We're continuously changing the way we do things. We have to be abreast with all the issues on hand as well, and the new tech that's available to make us faster. And it's essentially a very exciting field. I studied research psychology. Many people actually go into the field studying a lot of different courses going up to this point. So I think it's really an open-ended question when people say to me, what skills do I need? But I would say that critical thinking is probably the most important one going into this. And all the skills and techniques will come as you go along in the field. And that's essentially the day in the life of. I also forgot all my coffee breaks. tons of caffeine and Red Bull. So that's always a part of what we do. And I always ground myself at the beginning of every day with exercise. I think work-life balance is really important when you're stuck in your head all the time. So those are the things that I'd recommend. Always finding a work-life balance, figuring out what works for you, and prioritizing your day. I like to prioritize very early in the morning, probably at 5 o'clock. I know it sounds very early. But I do that because I've got kids as well, and I need to maintain some kind of balance when I get home. But what's great about this job also is that you can do it from any location. You don't have to be office-bound. It's one of those jobs where you can travel around the world. You could be sitting on a beach probably and do the same job with the same kind of output, very outcomes-based. It's not necessarily going to be based on your presence alone. But I would recommend face-to-face meetings, just so you can bed down your issues over time, and also it helps with relationship building throughout your organization. And that is me in a nutshell. And if you have any questions, fire away. Thanks.